Hello, everyone, and welcome to, I guess this is my inaugural stream. Not stream, I'm sorry. Just gameplay video in general. My name is Seraphin, and I'm going to be playing through the first American Fire Emblem game, also known as Blazing Sword in Japan. This is actually the seventh Fire Emblem game to come out in Japan, but it's the first one we got here in the West, and it's what made me fall in love with the series, and I'm not going to say tactics games in general because I was playing them long before then, but this I feel is the penultimate tactics series as far as modern gaming is concerned. Back in the day on the Sega Genesis, I played something called Shining Force. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that, but it was largely in the same vein, fantasy setting, tactics, grid-based RPG. It was really fun. I still play it from now and again, but this franchise as a whole has really captured my heart and soul ever since I started playing it back in 2003, and I've been an absolute addict ever since. So I figure might as well share some of the pain with the rest of you so you can see what it's like. I sincerely doubt anybody is near as addictive a personality as I am when it comes to this kind of stuff, but maybe I'm wrong, who knows. Anyway, this is Fire Emblem 7, the Blazing Sword, as it's called in Japan. And I guess we'll just get right into it. So I have beaten this game already several times, obviously. What's going to be different about this run, however, is I'm playing this on an emulator on my computer and not on the Game Boy Advance itself, mostly because that would be far too prohibitive to set up as far as recording footage is concerned, so we're just going to go with the tried and true emulator here. That being said, this save file, you'll see I don't have any, well, let's see here. I don't have any playthroughs set up already, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new one from scratch. Now, if you're starting this game out yourself, you will not see this same screen that I'm looking at right now. This is only because I played through the game already at least once. I have the option to select normal or hard mode, and you'll also see that there are 3 different characters available here. And the reason for that is because there are actually 3 separate storylines. Well, that's actually not true. So, Lyn is the Prologue saga, I should say. It says Prologue to Chapter 10. So the first 11 chapters of the game, Lyn is the main character. And then, once you finish her story up, you progress either into Hector or Ellawood's quest. And they finish the game from Chapter 11 on to the final chapter, which is about 27 or 28, I think, on Ellawood's, and 29 or 30 on Hector's. It might be more than that, I'm not sure. At any rate, we're going to start with Lyn's, and we're actually going to start hard because if you play Lyn on normal, it's like tutorial mode, and they kind of hold your hand and walk you through everything. I'm a bit more of a seasoned player, so we're just going to start hard mode. That being said, I'll probably, when I have the option to progress into Ellawood or Hector's story, probably just do normal. The hard modes for both of them are prohibitively difficult, and I've only successfully completed them once each, and it was not as fun of an experience as I was hoping it would be. So, that being said, we'll start out with Lyn right now on hard mode, and I'll just take the top slot here. So, this, unfortunately, is rather superfluous. For this game, you have the option to input your character name. The characters sometimes will address you, the player, by name in some of the story cutscenes. I don't know why. It doesn't really add anything. You as a character are not represented in the game, at least not in a playable fashion. There are some times when you'll see a little sprite on the map, but you don't get to do anything as your character. You are just regarded as the tactician for the group. And only the main characters generally will address you. And they'll look right at the screen and say, "Hey, so-and-so, you're here. Nice to see you," blah, blah, blah. So I'm just going to put in my obligatory moniker here. And then you have the option of entering your birth month. What this will do is change the little elemental symbol here next to your name, depending on what month you pick. I'll be honest, this doesn't really have any noticeable effect on the gameplay. Every character in the game has a symbol like this affiliated with them. It's called their affinity. That affects what support bonuses they get when they are friends with each other, but it doesn't really affect the character's growth with regards to what you put in here. So this is largely inconsequential. I believe there is some minor impact, but I'm going to be honest, I never really noticed anything impactful about what you put here, and I don't think it matters. So we're just going to go with my actual birth month, which is this month, coincidentally. And yeah, as strangely enough, I am a dude, so we're going to go with that too, and I'm just going to enter that in. That being said, I probably am not going to do any kind of voiceover for any of the dialogue in this game. There is no spoken dialogue, it is all text-based. I will try to go slow enough that everybody can read if they so desire, but I'm not going to be voice acting characters or any such thing. So this is Lynn. She is one of the three main characters of this game. She's actually my favorite of the three main characters, mostly because she's the best in terms of combat, but we'll get to that later. So she is a nomadic plainswoman. She lives on the plains of Sakai, I should say. It's kind of like the closest corollary would be something to like Native American style tribes, where they live on the plains, they hunt, they live in these nomadic huts, and they have very simple agrarian lives, I suppose. And I believe in Japan, Lynn is attributed to be 15 years old, but for America, they decided to make her 18. Because in everything in Japan, they have to make them younger for some reason. I don't quite understand why that is. So here's Lynn telling me she just found me unconscious, and she's talking to me, finding who I am. Oh, and something's happening. There you go. So there, she'll look right at the screen and address you directly sometimes. The other two main characters will do that as well, but none of the other playable characters will do that. They'll just have their default sprite work. So here we have the map. Lynn's house is in the corner there. She just goes out and sees a couple of bad dudes, and apparently that's bad. Once I have the option to get to the options menu, I will increase the text speed a bit so it's not quite so awful. Yeah, if there's only two, she can definitely handle it. In fact, Lynn is going to make short work of these poor losers. Strangely enough, no, I can't. I can't use anything at all. In fact, I'm not even visually represented on the board right now. Strategist by trade. Where do you go to do that? Oh, I lied. There I am, right there in the corner. However, I'm not going to stay there very long, and that's probably one of the 2 or 3 times you will see that sprite in the entirety of this game. In the later installments of this franchise, they did decide to let your player-created character an actual usable unit. For example, in Awakening, you have the Avatar. The default name for that is Robin. So if you've played Fire Emblem Heroes and you've seen Robin, that is actually your player character that you get to customize. The same thing with Corrin in Fates, which is actually the main character of the story, not just a playable character. But up until then, this is what you got. You got story-based characters, and you don't exist. So, at any rate, let's tweak the options a little bit. We're going to make the animations with backgrounds, because I think they look cool. We'll make the game speed faster, and we'll feed the text up a little bit. Not quite max, but fast enough that it's not painful, and slow enough that you can actually read the damn thing. I don't like to have this subtitle help, because it's just like tutorial mode, and I don't need that, quite frankly. It's nothing of consequence. Auto cursor, if you end the turn and start the next one, it'll automatically put your cursor on your main character. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not, so I'm just going to leave it that way. And then I like to have this window color because I'm a scrub. Orange is way too gaudy and green's a little much, so let's go with this gray-blue color here. Alright. So this is the entirety of this first map. It's not very big, it all fits on one screen. Some of the later ones will be bigger, that you'll need to scroll through them to view the whole thing. Lynn's right here. She's my only unit. Friendly units are blue colorized, and enemies are red, as you can see here. This is the boss of the level. That's that little blinking shield there on the bottom corner of him. The goal, I believe, is to just rout all the enemies in this map. This guy is just your standard barbarian with an axe. He's not overly impressive stat-wise. Here's another little bandit henchman guy down here. He is even less impressive, if you can believe that. And then I have Lynn over here. She's a Lord class. Ellawood and Hector are both also Lord class starting out, but they will diverge into different types of Lord once they are promoted and gain different skills. Lynn can only use swords. That's what you'll see on this screen here. There are 4 principal physical weapons. We've got swords, axes, lances, and bows. And then the letter next to that indicates her skill rank with that weapon. So right now she is rank D. It starts out at E as the lowest. That's like the most basic of weapons you can use, and it goes all the way to C, B, A, and then finally S. And S is the highest it goes. Once you've achieved S rank weapon, you can use the best and most awesome of weapons for that class. So D is respectable for the very first chapter of the game. It's not the lowest, but it's not very high either. Lynn just has an iron sword for the time being, and she has these vulneraries. These are basically healing potions. They heal 10 HP per use, and she's got 2 of them with 3 uses each, so she has 6 heals with her. I don't use these a whole heck of a lot, but I'll probably have some on hand just in case, since I'm not going to be hardcore grinding this playthrough or anything like that. I'm just going to play it at the pace the game wants me to play it. And I think they intend for you to have these on every playthrough, so I'm probably going to have at least one of these with everybody, if I can help it. The stats on the sword are here. A lot of this is just small number arithmetic. If you don't want to worry about the numbers, you don't really have to all that much, but I'm a number person, and I like numbers. So you'll see the sword there on the top left. That means that's what kind of weapon it is, and then you'll see the rank required to use it. So an iron sword is the weakest of swords. It requires level E. And Lynn more than surpasses that, so she's good. The range next to that is 1 square, so she can attack things that are right next to her. The weight of the sword, I'll get into that later, but it is 5. The might is what MT stands for. That's how powerful the weapon is. The hit rate is 90%. That's a percentile, even though there's no percent sign. And then the critical ratio is 0, so there's no extra crit from this sword. If you want to see the total, I guess, combat outlook, it's on the bottom there with the sword equipped. That E on the far right next to the number of uses means it's equipped. We can use this sword 46 times. Yes, the weapons have ammo in this game. I don't know why. And even more confusing is the better weapons have fewer uses than the basic ones. So higher quality materials, fewer uses, doesn't make sense, but whatever. So with the iron sword equipped, Lynn has 9 attack total. You see on the bottom there, she has a 106% chance to hit. That sounds like, why would there be 100% or over 100%? It's because enemies have an avoidance chance, which is subtracted from that. So Lynn's avoid chance is 43%. She's a 3% chance to crit. And the way that you determine all that is you combine the weapon stats that she has equipped and this right here. So this is a unit's stat table. It looks more intimidating than it is, I promise. Lynn is a level 1 Lord. That's on the bottom left there. She has 0 experience points. She has 16 hit points and she's full health, imagine that. Her strength, that is how much damage she deals with her weapons, in addition to weapon's might. So we have her strength of 4 plus the might of 5 from the sword itself, gives us that 9 attack. Skill is her chance to hit with the weapon. And the way that you calculate that is twice that skill number plus the hit ratio of the sword. So twice the skill is 14 plus, let's see here, 90%. I'm not sure where that extra 2 comes from. Oh, you also had half your luck, that's what it is. So half her luck is 3 or 2.5, rounded down is 2. Luck affects just about everything. Luck affects your crit, luck affects your hit rate, your dodge rate, everything. If you've got a lot of luck, then you're generally going to be dodging and hitting a lot more often. Her speed, that's only important when you compare it to an enemy's. If your speed is 4 points or more greater than your opponent's, you will hit them twice in one action. And Lynn is quite fast for a level 1 unit. I think the maximum for any stat for an unpromoted class is 20, and she's already almost halfway there. So she is quite nimble and speedy. Her defense, however, is lackluster at 2. Defense is how much physical damage you deflect from attacks, and resistance, the bottom one, is how much magical damage you deflect. So she has 0. A lot of units starting out won't have much of that at all unless they are magic units. Her movement, you'll see on the top right, is 5. That's how many squares along the map she can move. And you can see they can only move orthogonally, they do not get to move diagonal. The blue area is where they can move to, and the red spaces are the squares they threaten with their attack range. So she can move 5 squares, not quite far enough to get to that dude, about halfway there. And then finally, that con number, that's her constitution, that's like her physical body size. So con 5 is not all that high. Con affects how heavy of weapons you can wield without being slowed down by them. So the weight of this iron sword is 5. That is exactly as much constitution as Lyn has, so she does not suffer any speed penalties from using this sword. If the sword weighed any more than 5, it would slow her down by a factor of 1 speed loss per weight over her con. So if the sword weighed 7 instead of 5, she would effectively only have 7 speed instead of 9 when initiating combat. So if you have units like Lyn who are not physically imposing, they tend to want to use lighter weapons so they can maintain their speed advantage. Otherwise, they are going to be easy pickings for people with stronger guns. And then her affinity, you can see down there on the bottom, is wind. I believe there are 8 different symbols. Wind generally has, I believe, a crit increasing bonus. So if she were to make friends with somebody else with a wind bonus, then they would both get a great deal of critical chance when they're next to each other, but we'll worry about that another time. The very bottom of that screen, you'll see total battles taken part in, wins, meaning enemies she's killed, and losses, meaning number of times that she's died. Lyn, however, is a main character, so if she dies, your game is over and you need to reload your save. So you actually can't progress if Lyn dies, but it does remember how many times that she's died even when you reload your save, so that number is sort of a measure of how much you failed as a player, I guess. Once we moved Lyn, I can go to her items. I can equip items if she has multiple. I can drink potions if she's hurt. Right now I don't need to do any of that, so I'm just going to wait here. And once I move all my guys, then the enemy gets to move theirs. Bosses generally don't move. So Lyn's telling me to close in and attack. Yeah, I get it. So this boss is not going to move from this spot. Even though we can see his movement range, he is not going to move from that spot. They generally don't. There are maybe 2 or 3 bosses in this game that move from their spot, and that's because they get a terrain bonus on that spot. You'll see on the bottom right there, this is a gate. He gets 2 extra defense from standing there. That applies to magic and physical, by the way. And then he gets a bonus of 20 avoid. 20% avoid standing there. And you can see the regular planes don't offer any protection at all, so him standing here is actually a great idea for him because he's tougher to kill. And that's why the bosses will stand there, just to make them a little hardier. Lyn doesn't have any bonuses right now either. That being said, we're going to fight this dude. It doesn't really matter where you stand, I'm just going to go up here so I'm closer to the boss. I'm going to attack with my sword. Here's another key factor of this franchise. There is something in Fire Emblem, and you've probably heard of it if you've played this game at all, is the weapon triangle. And that means that it's literally rock, paper, scissors. So swords beat axes. That's why you'll see a little green up arrow on Lyn's sword and a red down arrow on the bandit's axe. It's because Lyn has a weapon triangle advantage on him. The triangle advantage gives you, I believe, 15% extra hit and degrades the enemy's hit by 15, as well as gives you a 1-point boost in damage and a 1-point reduction in your enemy's damage. So if I were fighting a lance user, Lyn would actually have the disadvantage. So sword beats axe, axe beat lance, and lance beats swords. Bows are not factored in the triangle at all. They do the same damage to everything. So you can see here, I'm gonna hit this guy twice because I am much faster than him. That's what the little ×2 floating next to Lyn's might is. So if we do I'm gonna do the math quick in my head. I'm gonna do 14 damage to this guy. It's not gonna be quite enough to kill him, and he's got a pretty negligible chance to hit me, but if he does, it's gonna hurt quite a bit. So actually the smart thing to do here is, if he manages to hit me, and he hits on his turn also, that's gonna kill Lyn. So what I'm gonna do is actually park her over here, and let him come to me. That way, if he does manage to hit me, I can heal up on my turn. And he did not hit me, as it turns out. But I'm going to hit him twice. And Lyn is awesome. I love her animation for her attack. So now this guy doesn't have a prayer to hit me. I'm going to attack him and just outright kill him before he can even touch me. And down he goes. The amount of experience required to level up is always 100, regardless of what level you are, but if you vastly out-level the thing you're fighting, obviously it's diminishing returns on the amount of XP you get. It's pretty standard for an RPG. So I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to park next to the boss. And he's going to take, looks like 5 strikes to kill, so that's going to be fun. If he manages to hit me with that 40%, that's going to be more than half my HP. So I'm going to do the same thing I did last time and just park in front of him and let him attack me. Yeah, this guy thinks he's hot stuff. I'm not really sure why that is, but... Oh, and he did hit me, so that's a good thing I didn't hit him first, otherwise I might be in trouble. Now, if you play through on normal, like I said, they do kind of hold your hand with this, and Lynn's like, let's go hit that guy, and actually she's guaranteed to crit him and kill him in 1 round, so not so much luck on hard mode, but we don't want any hand holding. So if he hits me again, I'm gonna die. So what I want to do is pop one of these vulnerary uses to get my health back. So that way if he does manage to hit me, I'm not going to get killed as a result. If he stands on that gate or a fort or anything similar to that at the start of his turn, he will gain a small amount of health back. But it's only 2 points. It's not enough to protect him from getting killed by my last hit. So we're just going to go ahead and finish him off. And if you noticed, I did hit him twice, but when I attack him, I attack first, and then he retaliates, and then I attack again. It's not both my attacks first and then his one. So if I were at a point where he could kill me with 1 more hit and he had hit me, then I would never have gotten to hit my second hit. And, oh, that's not bad at all. Lynn got strength on her level up. That's really good. So the way that your level ups work is you gain a random set of stats. It's not completely random though, it's within constraints. So for example, Lynn is very fast. She has a very high speed growth percentage. I believe it's something like 50 or 60%. So what the game will do is draw a random number for each of those 6 stats and HP, so 7 stats. And it will determine if the number rolled is lower than lower than the growth rate, then it will increase that point. If it doesn't, then they don't get it. So Lynn actually has a very low strength growth because she's supposed to be nimble and quick and not all that tough. So when she gets strength, it's really nice, but she's almost always guaranteed to get speed. She didn't this time, but she most likely will at every other time from now on. I believe Lynn also has very high skill and very high luck growth, but not so much for her defenses. So she sort of relies on her speed and ability to dodge rather than her hardiness to survive fights. And now that all the enemies are dead, what I can do, you can see the objective on the top right there is to seize the gate. So if I walk on top of where that guy was standing and I hit seize, then that will end the chapter. And of course Lynn thinks I did a good job, even though I'm just kind of telling her what to do. I'm pretty sure she could handle them without me. Yeah, so draining, the whole 5 minutes. This part gets a little sad. They'll call back to that particular set of circumstances quite a bit about Lynn's upbringing, the fact that she is the lone survivor of her tribe. It's not like I really have a choice now, do I? If only it were that simple. Alright, so that's the prologue. I know it took a little while for the explanations, but I'll try to go a little quicker next time so we can get through some more content. That being said, I'm going to call it for right now, but you'll probably see more of me in the near future. Yeah, just keep an eye out, and I'll post the rest of this as I play through it. So it's been a pleasure. Again, I am Seraph, and good night.